This episode is sponsored by Harotza בעילום lezchut, that you should find a pasike shidduch הגון quickly and easily. Chassid Binyomin Kletzker was Migdalei Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe. The Frierdiker Rebbe tells in a Farbrengen when Harav Tzadik Reb Shlomo Karliner visited once by the Alter Rebbe, and when he was about to leave Liyazna, the Alter Rebbe sent a few of the young elite from Cheder Beis to accompany him. Amongst the Melavim was also Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker. On the way, they spoke with Divrei Torah, Niggun, Kabbalah, Chakira, Chassidus, and Reb Shlomo Karliner was in tremendous ispilus from their knowledge. Reb Shlomo Karliner's destination was Bishenkovich. The young elite that the Alter Rebbe sent were thinking to travel with him only until Vitebsk. They came to Vitebsk. So Harav Tzadik Reb Shlomo Karliner said to Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker, "I will be grateful to you if you will accompany me until Bishenkovich." As it is known, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Binyomin was a Baal Chushim Nifloim and a great Amkan. So he stayed a few days in Vitebsk, and he decided to agree to accompany Reb Shlomo Karliner until Bishenkovich. On the way between Vitebsk and Bishenkovich, Reb Shlomo Karliner asked the wagon driver to stop between the fields because he wanted to daven mincha. Reb Shlomo Karliner went down from the wagon, but he didn't have water to wash his hands before davening. So Reb Shlomo Karliner sat back at the wagon, and he entered a dveikus. And a short while after that, the horses started to run really quickly on a side road, off the main road, and the wagon driver couldn't control them. They kept running and running until they stopped at a small river. Reb Shlomo Karliner smiled, came down for the wagon, washed his hands, and davened mincha. Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker, continues the Frierdiker Rebbe, even though he wasn't able to tolerate the hislavus and the ispilus, the great hislavus and ispilus of Harav Tzadik Reb Shlomo with his davening, nonetheless, he did cause him a tremendous koiras ruach. He very much enjoyed it. After mincha, the Tzadik Reb Shlomo Karliner sat back at the wagon, and they didn't know where to travel to. They were lost. The wagon driver said that he doesn't recognize this area. So Reb Shlomo Karliner said, let the horses go freely. And the horses continued to run until they eventually got back to the regular Derech HaMelech. Eventually, when it came to an inn, Reb Shlomo walked into the inn, davened Ma'ariv, did Tikkun Chatzos, then in the morning davened Shachris, and they kept traveling, and about Mincha time they arrived at the destination in Bishenkovich. This was Thursday, and therefore there wasn't a possibility for Rabbi Binyomin to travel back to Liyazna to the Alter Rebbe for Shabbos, so he had to stay there for Shabbos. For 2 days after Shabbos, as the Frierdiker Rebbe, Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker was still walking around, confused and overwhelmed from the great avodah that he saw, heard, and felt when he was by Harav Tzadik Reb Shlomo. And this idea started to come into his head that maybe he should stay for a while by Reb Shlomo. Eventually he decided to go back, and when he entered Reb Shlomo Karliner's room to say goodbye, so the Tzadik Reb Shlomo held him there for a few hours and begged him that he should stay by him, that he should become his Talmud. And he revealed to him Soides Nifloim and great Giluyim. At the end, he told him that if you stay by me, I'll be mekarev you even more to the Shitta of your Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe. And we will make a whole group of Yungalite. There will be Kalim to receive this Derech Avodah. And he promised him other great promises of great Giluyim. Rabbi Binyomin listened to everything the Tzadik Reb Shlomo told him. And then he entered him famously. In English, the translation goes is that the master is a master, but not mine. And the servant is a servant, but not yours. Meaning that you're Takia Rebbe, but not mine. And I'm Takia Chassid, but not yours. And Frierdiker Rebbe ends that this answer of Binyomin was a hayra for the emes chasidim. Each one that was mekusher to his Rebbe knew that the Rebbe of his friend is Takia Asar, Takia minister, but not his. And this derech brought a general chizuk in the Avodah b'darkei Chassidus. In another place it's told that once the tzaddik Reb Shlomo Karliner visited the Alter Rebbe with one of his great talmidim. This talmid of Reb Shlomo Karliner used to put on 2 pairs of tefillin on his head at the same time. And Reb Shlomo was priding himself in front of the Alter Rebbe with this younger man of his. And he said that this younger man was zeiger to Gilui Eliyahu. So the Alter Rebbe looked towards Reb Binyomin Kletzker, which was present in the room at that time, and he was in the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, and he was holding by Sim Shalom. And the Alter Rebbe told Reb Shlomo Karliner, this younger man who is holding now by Sim Shalom in Shemoneh Esrei, by him shines the Yechidah Shebanefesh right now. Another story told by the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the Harav HaKodesh Rebbe Menachem Nachum, the son of the Mittler Rebbe, once showed his father, the Mittler Rebbe, the way the Chassid Rebbe Binyomin Kletzker davened in the big Beis Medrash, and he was very much shakua in his avodas atfilah. So the Mittler Rebbe said, the Malachim in Shamayim would like to exchange their avodah in this avodah of Rebbe Binyomin. And another Farbrengen the Frierdiker Rebbe related, the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, the Chassid Rebbe Pinchas Reizes, and the Chassid Rebbe Binyomin Kletzker used to travel to the Yerid in Leipzig. They were from the Talmidim of Cheder Aleph. When they would come to Leipzig, they used to arrange their own minyan. Generally, they were not mischashev with the hisnagdus, and they were not mispala from it, despite the fact that they had derech eretz to lamdonim, and the misnagdim had derech eretz to them for their great yiras shemayim. So the German Jews, Leipzig is in Germany, so the German Jews did not know differences between different types of yidden, chassidim, misnagdim. So once a German Jew walked into their Chassidish minyan, and he very much liked the davening. But then he saw that by the Amud, there isn't a sign, like it is in many other shuls, that it says, Da lifnei mi ato emed. So he was wondering. And so when Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker saw that this Yid, this German Jew, was wondering, why isn't there a sign, Da lifnei mi ato emed? So he asked him, do you know the taich of this line? So he said, yeah, Da lifnei mi ato emed. You should know before whom you're standing. So Rabbi Binyomin told him, no, the parish is like this. Me, the word me, means understanding. Because me has to do with Sfira Sabina, but he didn't explain him that has to do with Sfira Sabina because he wasn't shaykh to this idiom. So he just told him me means understanding. And this is the taich. Da, you should know, lifnei mi ato oimed. You are still standing before any understanding. Before starting to daven, a person needs to know that he doesn't yet understand anything. Now, a person needs to know that, but to make a sign out of it and to show off to everybody, you should know that I don't know anything, that's an embarrassment. The Rebbe Rashab once related that it is known about the story of Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker that once he was standing next to clogs of wood, which was part of his business. That's why he was called Kletzker, in the city of Riga. And the story goes that he was while standing there next to all the merchandise, he was misboinen in Inyan Chassidus for 5 hours straight. And the people around were in tremendous espilus from it. Then he told them, why are you guys wondering about that? But in my eyes, it is a pella, it's a wonder. How could somebody say Echad in Kriyas Shema? While saying Echad in Kriyas Shema, he's thinking about his clogs of wood in Riga. And the Alter Rebbe said about Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker that he is mekayim letzivui b'chol derechecha de'eyu, because really the business does not hide, it does not cover on elikus. And this is the difference, says the Rebbe Rashab, between the earlier Sifrei Musar, the Sifrei Chassidus. The Sifrei Musar showed a person that he should be mufshat mi-iskei ha'olam. However, Chassidus is mechadesh. They have to be dafke melubash in the asakim, because the asakim are not a contradiction to serving the Eibishter. At another place it is told, Binyomin, his business had to do with forests, chopping wood, selling it. So once he was standing in a forest, and all of his workers were standing next to him and waiting to get instructions what to do. But he was deep in thought in some mimer. So the workers went over to him and they shook him a little, and they shook him gently, and they said, Rabbi Binyomin, what should we do now? So Rabbi Binyomin told them, wait a little bit. And he kept thinking. After a long time passed, and they're all standing around, they shook him again and said, Rabbi Binyomin, everything has its time. The time to be misbeided in a Maimer Chassidus is during davening, not now. So Rabbi Binyomin told them, Azoi. So when somebody has a machshava about wood and during davening, that's not the end of the world. But if somebody thinks about davening in the middle of the forest, to make a whole tumult out of it. Another story is told. Once, Rav Tzadik Reb Aaron Strashela came to a Yerid that was in his city, Arsha. And Reb Aaron Strashela saw how everybody get up early in the morning and rush to the Yerid. And he was wondering about that. It was shocking in his eyes that people should wake up early in the morning just to go and do business. In the meantime, he also heard that the Chassid Binyomin Kletzker also came to the Yerid. So he asked somebody to call him. And when Binyomin Kletzker came to him, he fell on his neck and he called out passionately. He says, look, Rabbi Binyomin, look what's going on over here. In other words, look how these people are running to do business. So Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker answered him, don't look and don't be mispal. And the Chassidim who related this story explained that this is the difference between just Das Elyon and the difference between that and Das Elyon, which shines also in Das Tachton. In other words, that the Rebbe Shtazela was just Das Elyon, but it wasn't mislabish in the world. But Binyomin Kletzker, for him, the world wasn't a stira to Elikus. The Frierdiker Rebbe once related that Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker was a Amken. And once, while he was walking home from shul with his talis and tefillin, he was misamek in Chassidus, and it was the market day. So he placed his talis and tefillin on a wagon that belonged to a guy that was standing in the middle of the market. He picked up one foot and he put it on the wheel of the wagon, and he went deep in thought into Chassidus. In the meantime, the guy who owned the wagon finished his business. He went on the wagon and traveled away. And Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker stayed standing in the market while the foot that was on the wheel is still lifted up in the air, just not being supported by the wheel anymore because the wagon traveled away. Eventually, he put down his foot, but he still didn't notice anything. He didn't notice that the wagon traveled away with his talis and tefillin. Only when it came time for mincha, he woke up from his thoughts. Now, this Goyish wagon driver, when he came to another street, he had the different foods on the wagon that he was offering for sale. So he offered them for sale for some yid. That yid happened to see the talis and tefillin on the wagon, and that's how Rabbi Binyomin Kletzker got his talis and tefillin back. And the Frierdiker Rebbe continues, look how far is the koyach of Yiras Shamayim. Even though he was so deep in thought, until he didn't even notice, he didn't even feel that the wagon traveled away, but when it came time for mincha, that did wake him up from his thoughts to go and daven mincha. The Frierdiker Rebbe once wrote in a letter a story about Rabbi Binyomin, that Rabbi Binyomin also had a business with buying and selling expensive hides of different animals. And often he will travel to Leipzig, and he was a famous zeiger. Once, when he was in Leipzig, he went to one of the stores because of his business. All of a sudden, he stopped next to a window of a certain store, and he stayed standing there for 7 hours straight, deep in thought about Chassidus. And he didn't hear or see anything around him. He did not move away from there until his brother-in-law, the Pinchas Reizes, came, put his hands on his shoulder, and he asked him, Binyomin, what are you thinking about? Only then, Binyomin woke up from his thoughts, and he looked at the Pinchas Reizes with wondering eyes, and he says, Pinchas, where are you? The Rebbe just said the beer on the Maimer, Shchoyre Ani. This story, says the Frierdiker Rebbe in the letter, this happened in the summer of Tovkuf Pei Beis. The beer on the Maimer Shchoyre Ani, the Alter Rebbe said in the year of Tovkuf Samach or Tovkuf Samach Aleph, meaning 20 years before that. But This was the Hismasrus, the Übergegebenkeit of Rabbi Binyomin to Chassidus, and that when he was going down the street for his business, he remembered one of the Ma'amorim that the Alter Rebbe said 20 years before, and forgot about the whole world around him until it seemed to him that that was the moment that he was standing in front of the Alter Rebbe hearing this beer. And when his brother-in-law Reb Pinchas woke him up from his thoughts, he looked at him wondering, and out of a good friendship asked him, "Where were you? The Alter Rebbe just had the beer." At another place, a story is told that Rabbi Binyomin was famous to be a Baal Tzedakah Mufla. It is told that once, during a Chassidish Fabrengen, Rabbi Binyomin told his brother-in-law Reb Pinchas Reizes about the way he gives tzedakah. It says, "In my house I have different bags filled with coins of copper, and then some bags with big coins, bags with small coins. And when a poor person goes into my house, I take a look at the person, I evaluate him in my head for which bag I should take out of, and then I take out of the bag as much as can fit into my hands, and I give it to him without counting it." So his brother-in-law Reb Pinchas said, "I do exactly the same way. All the details that you said, that's exactly how I give tzedakah, except for one thing. Before I give everything that comes into my hand, on his hand, I do actually count the coins. To this level, to give it without even counting, that I didn't yet reach." At another place it's told that once the Chassid Rabbi Binyomin came to a certain city and he started to scream, "Gewalt, Gewalt! Where is the Rebbe's Torah? Where is the Rebbe's Torah?" And then he went to another shtetl, and when he came to that other shtetl, he said, "Oh, the Rebbe's Torah was found." What's the pshat? So in the first city, there were many chassidim, and Rabbi Binyomin had more expectations from them. And he didn't see that the expectations that they had from them was fulfilled. So that's why he was screaming, "Gewalt, where's the Rebbe's Torah?" But when he came to the other shtetl, which that second shtetl did not have any chassidim, that's when he realized that the chassidim in the first shtetl were actually much better off than your average regular Jew, and that's when he said, the Rebbe's Torah was found. Once, Rabbi Binyomin became very, very sick. At that time, there was a chasana in the family of the Alter Rebbe, and Rabbi Binyomin got a personal invitation, bichsav, from the Alter Rebbe. When the time for the wedding was coming close, Rabbi Binyomin asked his family that they should bring him to the wedding. But then he was very, very sick, and was mamash impossible. But he screamed loud that he doesn't want to hear any excuses, and he demands that they should take him to the wedding. Since the Rebbe sent him a personal invitation, he must come. So Lemaisa, they brought him to the chasana, sitting in a wagon, and they told the Alter Rebbe about it, that's how he's coming. So when the Alter Rebbe heard, the Alter Rebbe said that they should bring him to the wedding hall. But that was not possible physically. So the Alter Rebbe said that they should bring him to the area in the wagon. After they brought him to the place, they sat him down on a bench across from the Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe gave him a cup of beer, and he told him to drink it. Rabbi Binyomin drank the whole entire cup. Then the Alter Rebbe poured him a second cup and a third cup, and Rabbi Binyomin drank them too. And then the Rebbe told him, "Go dance with the Chassidim." Right away, Rabbi Binyomin got up from his chair, completely healthy, and burst into a dance with the Chassidim. And the last story, once the Chassid Binyomin Kletzker came to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he sat next to him on a bed. The Tzemach Tzedek started to say a macher, and Rabbi Binyomin kept sitting next to the Tzemach Tzedek, listening to the macher. Then, sometime in the middle of the macher, all of a sudden Rabbi Binyomin got up from the bed, trembling, and he stood like a servant stands before the master. And when they asked him what happened, he said, "In the middle of the macher, I heard the Alter Rebbe speaking out of the Tzemach Tzedek's mouth." We'll finish off with a Niggun, which is called the zeiger macher. It's a Niggun that's miyuches to the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe. And Reb Shmuel Zamenhof in Sefer Niggun writes about this Niggun, that this Niggun, the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe used to sing in the times of his Seirus. And this Niggun brings out the seriousness of his amkus hamachshava and the expression of the merirus alev mitoich of ha'isirus of ha'iner lichat tshuva, inner tshuva. Today I da dam da dam I na dam dam Today I da I die, oh ma oh ma oh na I da dam I da dam oh oh I na na ya I da 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 na na nam ayayanai ay na nam ma ayayam oy ma na 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 oy ma na 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 nam ayayanai ay la da ya Dididam na da 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 hidam Didiya yidam na da 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 hidam na da da ya yida na da 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 hidam na da da ya na da 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 na da 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 na da ma ya na da 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 na ho ye ma ya ya na da da dam amam yenam ay na nam oy ma ay amamai ay mamam ay mamai ay na yadam amam mamam ay mamam ay nay ay day ay day ay ma 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 oy ma ma ay ma 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 ma